Hello everyone. So in the last video we had seen how to use props as a mechanism in React, right? So in this video I'll be continuing with the last example, and we'll try to improvise on the little application that we tried to build, and we'll improvise upon it. So in the last video what we did was we took this variables named player name and player score, and we had assigned some value to this variables, right? And so we passed these variables as attribute names inside of this JSX, and this JSX corresponds to this component named subcomponent. So when you pass this attribute name which contains this variable, let's say p name contains player name, right? So it contains John. The value of player name here is John. So if we pass p name, then in subcomponent.js you are having p name, which is the player name, right? And props as an object, it will have its property listed here, right? And you will be able to see. So if I run the server, let's run the server and see let's start our server, npm start, and it will give us the output. Okay, let's close the terminal and let's start it once again, and our server started. And okay, so this was the last example that we did, and so we had a variable, and this variable was having its name John and score as 90. Now if we want to improvise on this example, and let's say we have multiple players, and multiple players will have their own scores, individual scores, right? So that way you will need to make, let's say we have four players, and what we can do is we will have to our players will have their names. Let's say David, and David's scores is 99, and let's say Harry will have some score, let's say 80, and let us put Peter will have some, let's say 95, and we will have to have different variable names for them, right? So player name 1, player score 1, let's say, and player name 2, player score 2, player name 3, player score 3, player name 4, and player score 4. Let's put it this way. And now if you put the variable names as listed here, you'll get to see their individual outputs, right? So 3 and 4, 2, player score 3, and player score 4. And let's save it. It's compiling. It's compiled successfully, and let's check the output. And so see, we have John 90, David 99, Harry 80, and Peter 95 as we have put in our variables, right? So for this, what happens is, if we have multiple players, let's take the help of this example and see that suppose we have multiple players. So the approach here is that we have taken here is we have created multiple variables. So let's say we have 100 players, so will we be creating 100 variables for them? So that way you can do, but that is not a good approach, right? So what we can do is we can just take an array. Let's take an array, let's say players. Okay, so let's have an array, and inside the array let's have an object. So basically this is an array of objects. So we will create objects for different players. Let's name it player name, and let's give it a name, let's say John, and let's give player score, and let's put 90 as its score. And for the second player we will create another object, and here we'll have a comma, and this is the second player. So for second player we will have his name, let's say David, and his score, let's put 95. Now okay, let's have another one, and you're getting the idea, I guess. So but to make it more appealing, let's put another name, let's Peter, and Peter have his score as 80. Okay, so we have three players, and three players are put in as objects inside an array variable. Okay, so we have an array of objects. Okay, there are three objects of type array. We have an array of objects. Okay, now how you can access is that in this example, this p name is the attribute name for this JSX. It is called a JSX attribute. So this JSX attribute will have the array name, it will have the array name which is players. So we'll have players and the index of that array. Let's say this array consists of 3 elements, right? And these elements are in itself objects. Okay, these are objects, but these objects are elements of an array. So they have positions. This is in 0th position, this is the first position, and this is the second position. So total of 3 size. So if we are referring to players 0, that means we are referring to this object. If we are referring to players 1, then we are referring to this object, which is David. If we are referring to players 2, this means we are referring to Peter, this object. So okay, so this is basic array and object approach. So I'm pretty sure you must be knowing this. If you're learning React, you must be having some knowledge of JavaScript, of basic JavaScript. So an object oriented approach also. So array and objects and all this stuff. Okay, so anyway, so let's have this 0th position and dot let's say player name. So that way I'm referring to players 0 dot player name, which is I'm referring to player name John. Okay, players 0 dot player name, which is John. So I'm referring to John. And if I put here as players 0 dot player score, So I'm referring to the score of John. So let us copy this for all the players, and let's delete the earlier part, right? And let's have this in the first index we have David, and in the second index we have Peter. So we are passing John, David and Peter as, yeah, we are passing the positions along with their ID names. Okay, so this will be passed on to the component, and the component which will receive this data from this JSX attribute will be passed on to this subcomponents, and this subcomponent will, you need not modify this subcomponent. You just have modified this part inside your app.js, and your subcomponent is ready to your subcomponent is receiving this in props, and props having its properties will display their values. So if you check it, you'll have the updated values. See, we have John, David and Peter. So let's just remove one of them and see the differences. Let's say I'm removing this first position. So if I remove first position, I'll be having two players now, yeah, John and Peter. So what we observed in this video is that if we have to have multiple players, let's say multiple variables, if we are passing multiple data, we can pass it through an array. So we can create an array of objects, and these objects will contain multiple data, and so this multiple data can be ultimately transferred to the particular component file where we want to place it, and the props will do its work on that particular, see, the props will do its work on that particular component, right? So this was just an improvisation of the earlier video. You could do your own small projects like this. You can just at this point you can go on experimenting with these small changes, and you'll be able to grasp some knowledge. So don't just follow my tutorials, guys. You try to work on it with your own examples. You'll be able to learn it more quickly. Okay, so if you have any query regarding this video and other videos as well, you can comment below, and if you want any specific video that if you want me to make any specific video, you just comment me below. I'll try to make such videos on your request. Okay, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.